This week we're making Ethiopian honey bread. Ethiopia is a country in the continent of Africa, and this bread might have been made with the honey that was in the story that you listened to, The Best Beekeeper of Lalibela. So I'm sending Mom and Dad the recipe that we would print at school, but since it might be hard to read, I'm also going to send them a link to one that they can read on the computer. So I've measured a few of our things already, so it wouldn't take quite so much time. The first thing you're going to need is 1 packet of yeast, or if you're using yeast that's in a big container, then you're going to need, I believe it's 2 teaspoons. But you can read that on the side. And it says we have to do it in 1/2 cup of warm water, not too hot because that will burn the yeast monsters. We just want to wake them up. We're going to give them 1 packet of yeast. And usually we give them sugar to wake them up, but for this recipe, instead of using sugar, we're using honey. 2 tablespoons of honey. And this would be a good workout for your handwriting muscles because you have to squeeze really hard to get honey out of the container. This looks just like the honey that Almas made in the book that we read. There's 1 tablespoon of honey. Oh, the yeast monsters are going to eat that up. And 2. Okay, we're going to mix that together. And then we're going to let that sit for a few minutes while the yeast monsters wake up and start to eat that delicious honey. So we're going to let that sit for about 10 minutes. I'll just put it over to the side. While we're waiting, in this bowl, we're going to need some more honey. We're going to need an egg, and then some spices are all going to go in this bowl. So you know that I always crack my egg in a separate bowl just in case we get any shell. Hopefully we don't. Hooray! That can go in. Now we're going to need 1/2 cup of honey. I'm going to have to squeeze this little bear really, really hard. If we were at school, I'd have you taking turns giving this a good squeeze. I sure wish I had your help right now. This recipe does not use sugar. Most sweet recipes use sugar, but the honey takes the place of the sugar in this one. Right up to the tippy top. There we go. So we've got 1 egg, we've got 1/2 cup of honey. Now we're going to need some spices. We're going to need a tablespoon of coriander. My spoon is still a little sticky from my honey, but that's okay, it'll still work. And 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. All right, honey check, egg check, coriander, cinnamon, salt. We also need 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay. Gonna mix those all together. If you have a whisk, you can also use a whisk for this. Okay, and now we are adding 1 cup of warm milk, which I already poured out and I made it warm in the microwave, and 1 stick of melted butter, which I already melted in here. So there goes the butter. And there goes the milk. Mix that together. All right, and we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes while we wait for our yeast monsters to be done waking up. All right, it's been about 10 minutes and our yeast monsters are awake and ready to go. Look at all those bubbles. Oh my goodness. So now we're gonna add that to the mixture that had the warm milk and the honey and the egg and all the spices. Oh, very, very bubbly. Okay. But now we need the most important ingredient in bread, besides the yeast, is the flour. So our directions say we're going to start with 2 cups. We know 2 cups isn't going to be enough, but that's what we're going to start out with. So here's 1 cup. 2 cups. And remember, it has to start looking like Play-Doh. It's going to take a little while before that happens. But we'll do 2 cups to start. Still much too wet. Definitely not like Play-Doh yet. Okay. So now we're going to add more flour, half a cup at a time, until it looks like Play-Doh. It's probably going to equal about 4 to 5 cups total when we're done. A little better, but still way too wet. And remind myself of our rule to stir slowly so it doesn't bloop out the sides. Better, but still too wet. Let's put in another half a cup. Maybe 1 or 2 more of these will do it. Almost. Okay, I think we're just about there. I'm gonna get my mat ready. Okay, I think this is the right consistency now. I'm gonna flour my mat so it doesn't stick. Flour my hands so it doesn't stick. Let's get our dough onto our mat. And here's everybody's favorite part. We're gonna do press and fold. For this one, we have to do press and fold for about 15 minutes. Press, 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 fold. Well, you might need to ask people in your house to take turns and help because 15 minutes of press and fold is a really long time. Okay, I'll see you back in 15 minutes. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. And the good news is my watch thinks this is exercise. I think it counts. Okay, so now it's gonna have to rise. So we're gonna spray a bowl so it doesn't stick. Oh, helpful hint. I've noticed if you have a glass bowl instead of a metal bowl, the dough will rise a lot better. Metal bowls tend to be too cold. So drop your dough in there and then flip it over so the spray gets on both sides. Now we're gonna cover it with a towel and we're gonna put it in a warm place to rest for an hour and a half. We'll see you back then. All right, it's been 1.5 hours. Let's see if it got bigger. Oh, definitely. Okay, so now we have to do the fun part, the punching it down. Get some flour on my hands. We're gonna punch out most of the bubbles. Okay, now I'm gonna put it on my mat. And you have a few choices when you get to this part. You can either spray just a regular loaf pan and put the whole thing in there to rise, or probably 2 loaf pans unless you've got a really big loaf pan. You can use mini loaf pans like I have, or if you don't have any loaf pans, you can just take a little bit and on a baking tray, you could just kind of form it into a loaf shape. Because when the people in Lalibela make their Ethiopian honey bread, they do not use a loaf pan. They just do it just like this. I have these great pans, so I think I am going to use those. I'm going to spray them so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to put the dough in there, a little bit in each one. So my dough filled up 6 mini loaf pans. It can also fill up 1 regular size loaf pan, or like I said, you can just make some little loaves on a baking sheet. We're gonna cover these up again to let them rise again for 1 hour, and then we'll come and bake. We're gonna check them after 45 minutes. It might not take a full hour. Let's check in 45 minutes. See you then. All right, it's been 45 minutes. Let's see if they got bigger. Yep. Okay, these are little loaves, so everybody's gonna bake it at 325 degrees. If you have little loaves about this size, it'll probably take 15 or 20 minutes to bake. If you have the full size bread pan, it might take closer to an hour. Just check them every 15 minutes or so and give it a little tap, and when it sounds hollow, it's ready. We'll check back in about 20 minutes. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes and it smells really good in here. Let's see. Oh, they're definitely ready. Okay, we're gonna take those out and let them cool on a cooling rack for a little while. Okay, our Ethiopian honey bread is finished. Some people like to have it with honey or butter or jam, but Marin's gonna try it just all by itself. It's still warm.
Oh, wow. Very good.
2 thumbs up. Okay, if you guys try it at home, send us a picture. Let us know how it goes.